The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, the space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
Alrighty, so for today we have a question from Dante, who comes to us from Council Bluff, Iowa. Question, and Dante writes, the tragic shooting of Renee Nicole Good is on everyone's mind. Yes, indeed. We are still getting more information regarding this tragic death. The administration is painting this as justified and making Ms. Good not the victim, but the reason for her death. I think this narrative is shameful, but there are outlets that are promoting this account of events. On January 6th, when the young woman, Ashley Babbitt, was killed while storming into the Capitol, the far right painted her as a martyr. Yes, they did. Even though what she was doing was illegal. But the right is now painting this woman, Renee Nicole Good, who was clearly murdered, as a terrorist. I guess my question is America as we once knew it dead? Have we become so polarized that we cannot see this for the tragedy that it is? Does the panel believe there will be any accountability for the continued violence against citizens who oppose this president? Thank you, Dante. Very, very serious question. Mark Scott? Do we believe there will? Do you believe there will be any accountability?
Not for the next 3 years.
Okay. This man's Jonathan Ross, the shooter. I noticed that he left the scene, and I wanted to point out that you can clearly see on Jonathan Ross's own videoing of himself, where when he is on the right-hand side of Renee Nicole Good's vehicle, he switches his phone from his right hand to his left hand to free up his right hand, where he is already reaching for his weapon, having just passing the door, the right-hand side door. And you can see Rebecca Good, Renee's wife, trying to get into the passenger side, and she was unable to do that. And and as Jonathan Ross passes the front of Renee's vehicle, you can see Renee turning her steering wheel to the right. You can also see one of the ICE agents, what appears to be his reaching in through Renee Good's open window to grab her steering wheel to try to turn it or hold onto it, because when she begins to move, this person is nearly yanked off his feet. When Jonathan Ross has been portrayed as protecting lives, and when he fires his weapon, he is like something like 1.5 feet to the left of his fellow I call them agents loosely, firing nearly toward them, and then takes a shooter's stance, holding his phone in his left hand and holding a gun in his right hand with his legs spread when you go frame by frame. And he's discharging a weapon very close to where other people are standing, and not even holding his gun with two hands. It's horrific. And then he gets in a vehicle after walking over very casually and coming back casually and saying, oh, we need to call 911. And then they refuse medical help, even though there's a physician there on scene. He gets in a vehicle and drives away and leaves the scene. And Minnesota's officials have been denied access to the body, to the vehicle, to ballistics. However, even as I understand it, even if the case is moved to federal court, the same Minnesota state officials can and will be pursuing the case. So this person, even if exonerated now from federal charges, there is no statute of limitations on murder. he will still be subject to state charges of capital murder. And as Mark said, for the next 3 years, no. And J.D. Vance is incorrect. He does not have full immunity. He might have qualified immunity under the federal protection that he is being incorrectly offered. But at the state charges, no. So there will be accountability provided there are responsible people put into office.
So,
Scott?
yeah, I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of different ways that we can break this down and address it. I try to like get my thoughts organized a little bit because it's a long question that that Dante from Council Bluff, Iowa asks, and I wanted to try to get all of it, discuss all of it. But I think you have to kind of separate the entire situation into sections. I'm not really sure that I've seen that done well anywhere in the media or in breakdowns that I've seen. You're 100% right, Brooke, when you say he switched his cell phone from one hand to the other so he could pull his gun out, which he did as he crossed the front of the car. And when he fired that first shot, he literally put the other agent at risk who was leaning into the car to try to open the door. And you can tell by the guy's reaction how shocked he was that a shot was fired that close to him. We do need to see his video camera footage. Hopefully they haven't erased that yet, because he's got a really interesting sort of Zapruder film quality perspective on this thing that I think everybody needs to see. I don't know that we are going to see it. The officer that was standing behind him also has an interesting perspective on it, and presumably his camera was running also, and we'll be able to see that at some point, unless they've gone ahead and erased it, which would really kind of speak to the idea of guilt in this case, and them covering up a really serious crime, a murder. But I want to take a step back first, and we need to look at the overall situation. And we've discussed this in this podcast before, I think, where if ICE was conducting themselves the way they are in Minnesota, in Texas or Florida, some other states that, maybe South Carolina, maybe Georgia, I'm not, maybe Alabama or Mississippi. But I bring up Texas and Florida for more than just the fact that they're southern states, they're red states, they have a large population of Trump supporters. They also have more foreign-born Americans in those states. I'm trying to think of the numbers off the top of my head. I believe that 9% of Minnesota's citizens are foreign born. That doesn't mean they're not citizens, right? They could be naturalized citizens, certainly. But compare that to, I think it's something like somewhere between 15 and 18% in Florida and 23% in Texas. Those would be areas that ICE would probably have a greater yield of deportations than going all the way up to Minnesota, which is a hell of a lot closer to Canada's border than it is to the southern border. And in Texas or Florida, I think for the most part, they would be greeted as liberators, to quote Dick Cheney, and not face the kind of obstruction or protest that we're seeing in Minnesota, where people are honking horns and blowing whistles to alert people that ICE is on the scene and they need to avoid the area. It's unclear to me whether Renee Good was blocking traffic in the middle of the road or she was trying to make a U-turn and got stuck because she was stuck behind another car that was disabled or stopped. That's still unclear. The overall point here, I think, of ICE's presence in Minnesota is not to get rid of immigrants, certainly not to get rid of criminals, amongst the immigrant population or the illegal immigrant population, but rather to occupy a hostile territory. And when you see Kristi Noem at the podium with a slogan written on the podium, you get one, we get all, or whatever it is, which is like right out of the Reinhard Heydrich playbook, right?
One of ours, all of yours.
All of yours, okay. It certainly speaks to the sort of occupying force that ICE is right now in Minnesota. And by the way, right here in Danbury, Connecticut, not far from where I am, where I teach, there is a large ICE presence here, which is also getting a lot of protest. So I think that's the first thing that I think we really need to kind of question here is why is ICE in Minnesota? I know the excuse is that the the sort of ginned up or hyped up scandal over the nursing homes and child care facilities that affected some of the Somali population, which in right-wing circles they believe had been allowed to happen without any kind of repercussions. We know that that's not true because there have been convictions. Convictions take time to happen, right? So these are not just indictments, they're convictions. People have gone to prison for this or are awaiting going to prison for this. So it's nothing new, and there's no emergency that would cause anybody to say we need to put in an occupying force here. Clearly, the governor and the mayor don't want ICE in there. They don't want outsiders coming into their state, arresting their citizens. Minnesota is an interesting place in that I saw today, was reminded today, that they have a large Asian population, and that in St. Paul, right across the river, the ICE is going door to door asking people if any Asians live on their block and stopping cars to ask people, hey, are there any Asians who live on this block? Because they're looking for Hmong refugees who fought on our side during Vietnam and whose grandchildren right now are being targeted and sent to Laos, which they've never set foot in their lives, right? They've been born here. And a lot of times being deported without any kind of notice or anything. And there's not much, and Laos is not a friendly country to us right now. They have accepted these refugees back, but it's not clear, as it has not been in Venezuela, another country where we have an antagonistic relationship, what the status of these American citizens are when they go back. Are they being, forced to pay the price for their grandparents siding with us during the Vietnam War? So there are a lot of questions, but it really does seem like the overall, if you can call it a strategy here, is to intimidate and retribution. And we're getting anybody who's not white European out of this country. And, that's unacceptable.
I have a question, Scott, to build on what you're saying. I wasn't aware. I know J.D. Vance had said, we're going to go door to door. That violates the Fourth Amendment. That was that unreasonable search and seizure. Mark and I were talking before we started, and I was, of course, being alarmist as usual, and Mark was reassuring me as usual that I needed to calm down. And Mark, you're our law person and constitutional person. The ICE was originally a border security force, yeah? And going door to door violate without any probable cause or due process or warrant or anything like that, and whatnot. Does that not violate the Fourth Amendment? And deporting American citizens without due process or anything. I mean, that violates the Constitution. So where is Congress in supporting the or you and I were saying about the courts in stopping the unreasonable search door to door and deployment of a weaponized force against Americans, against the population of this country by the, I don't even want to call him the president, the whatever he is, in the White House, and his lackeys, Miller and whatnot, Noam and her Corey Lewandowski and whatnot. When Walz and the mayor, whose name I don't remember, Minnesota, Minneapolis's mayor, and so on, they don't want these people present. And since the National Guard, apparently that didn't work, now we've got this essentially a private army at the beck and call of the White House, going anywhere and everywhere. So how does this get stopped is my question, and where are the rest of the leadership of this country to stop it?
Okay. There actually was a question to that I was able to get out of it. First of all, the legislature is here to make law. That's what they do. Well, law's already made. What exactly do you want Congress to do? Make another law? Reinforce the law. They don't enforce it.
Who enforces this?
The courts.
Okay, well
the courts are the ones that go and enforce that enforce the law. That's why.
Can't they hurry up?
Well, once again,
or
the system.
Emergency.
What again? Let's go to the questions that you were asking. Is it against the Fourth Amendment to go door to door? No, it's actually not. Is it against the Fourth Amendment to go into the house without a warrant? Yes, it is. I mean, I can tell you right now, there's people that come door to door here at this house. The solicited people come soliciting, and that's not against the Fourth Amendment. Fact is that as long as they don't attempt to enter the house and search or seize anything without a warrant, go knocking on their doors, and what's the big deal?
Well, ICE has done that in Minneapolis. They have breached people's houses, and they've shown a paper that's only been signed by like an immigration officer or an ICE officer or something like that. Count. They don't have a proper
which does not count. And
correct.
The advice that has been given out by many people. Governor Pritzker has given out this advice. Governor Shapiro has given out this advice. Many of the governors have given out the advice. If ICE comes to your door, knocks on the door, say, I want to see a warrant signed by a judge. If they don't give you that, don't open the door. It's that simple.
Tell them to hold it up to the window or
no. Whatever. I mean, however, but they have. I'm going to tell you right now, they don't have a warrant. They have an administrative warrant, which is signed by an official. That's what they have. But that does not count as far as entering somebody's house.
But you can't open your door.
Just don't open your door, yeah.
Okay. But I mean
it's a simple.
It's the paper through the door.
I mean, it's a simple. Well, no. If they truly have a warrant, they can take the door out. They could knock the door down if they truly have a warrant. But if they don't have a true warrant signed by a judge, now they're in violation of the law. Now you've got something to hang your hat on for the cost of a door. Okay. So the solution to that is relatively simple. Now you say, well, can't the courts move faster? Brooklyn, the courts have been moving this way for the past 200 years. We are a litigious society. We litigate everything. The courts are so far backed up. What is the emergency that makes this more of an emergency than some other case?
Because we've had a woman murdered.
Okay, so perfectly fine.
Now,
but there still has to be an investigation. There still has to be an investigation.
The FBI is not allowing the local people to investigate what happened
Correct.
in their jurisdiction.
That is correct. And that will be fought out in the courts. That's the system of law that's the system of law that we live in.
But is that going to happen now? I mean,
it'll happen when it happens. I mean, there's no, again, I know you want somebody to snap their fingers and magically this all happens. Well, guess what? That's not the real world. That the real world doesn't work this way. So they're not allowing Minnesota officials in their jurisdiction to investigate this crime. So they're suing. To be able to do that. And that takes time. That takes time. And then even if a judge was to say to Minnesota, yep, all right, they have to turn this stuff over to the Minnesota authorities. Guess who's going to appeal? ICE.
Of course.
And then it has to go to another judge. And then it has to go to another judge. Then it goes to a court of appeals. Then it goes to, again, the system of law that protects us also hinders us. It's just kind of the way it works. That's one of the reasons I never became a lawyer, because I would go nuts having to sit around waiting on all this stuff. File this motion, file that motion, blah, 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 blah. That would make me absolutely insane having to sit around and wait around for it. Because like you, I'm like, can we just get on with it? I mean, just let's get on with it. But it is for the protection of everyone. And even though we probably don't want ICE protected because we don't believe they need to be protected, if you take the protection away from them, you take it away from you too. You take it away from everyone. So you have to sit back and you have to look at it from that standpoint. So, and that's why I say, will this ever be resolved? I don't know. It's not going to be resolved in the next month. There's going to be all sorts of wrangling in the courts and this, that, and the other. And that's just the way the system works. And the system is in that place to be able to protect the average citizen. Unfortunately, it protects ICE equally as well. So there are some things that can be done. Once again, ICE comes to your door. Is that illegal? No. If they enter without a warrant, then it's illegal. If you open the door and they nab you, that might be illegal, but just don't open the door. I mean, there's just so many things here that can be done that are rather simple. Now, to Scott's point when he was talking about, the person that was the shooter in this thing. My father was a cop for a very, very long time, and I could tell you something. If he was alive today, he'd look at the actions of that ICE agent and he'd say, where did he get his training from? First of all, the last thing you do is walk in front of a vehicle. Number two, why are you recording on your cell phone? Don't you have body cameras? I mean, you can buy 2 jets for Kristi Noem to fly around the country, but you can't supply your people with body cameras. So my question is, and my dad's question would probably be the same thing: why are there no body cameras? What are you trying to hide? What are you trying to hide if you don't have any body cameras? Just like you're hiding your face. I mean, the entire situation with this young lady being killed is tragic. Is absolutely tragic. And the emailer brings up a good point. Babbitt was, she's the martyr. She was a patriot. Okay, whatever. Even though she was illegally entered with violence into the United States Capitol. This woman here, was she doing something illegal? We don't know. Does it look like she was doing something illegal? No. I mean, if you see her talking to the agent, because they do have that on camera, it seemed like nothing really bad was going on. But there was a whole bunch of lying going on, which was the problem. And the lying was that the ICE agents were stuck in the snow. I mean, that's a lie. I mean, who was stuck in the snow? The other thing that gets me is, and Kristi Noem, if there's an incompetent person on the face of the earth, more incompetent than even Trump, it's her. Every single time, any jurisdiction you go into, if you've got a sheriff, if you've got a chief of police, if you've got a prosecutor, they don't go on put their face onto a TV and say, this was an act of terrorism. until the investigation is done. Does not happen. That shows how incompetent in law enforcement. And I'm going to tell you, if this is supposedly law enforcement, these guys are awful. I saw a picture today, and it was up, and it actually was not AI generated. One of the ICE agents was arrested for January 6th. So, you're basically getting the goons. They're not trained. They probably couldn't get a job doing anything else. And these are the goons. These are the brown shirts. These are the brown shirts of the United States. And the point that Scott made about Minnesota, the thing you find more in Minnesota than anything else probably is mosquitoes. They have the biggest mosquitoes on the face of the earth. I swear to God, they have a lot of mosquitoes, and they're huge. They'll fly away with you. But the fact is, go to Minnesota. You mentioned Texas and you mentioned Florida. South Carolina, they probably have a pretty hard time too. South Carolina has open carry. And we have a stand your ground law, as does Florida, as probably does Texas. I'm not sure Minnesota does. So, they come to South Carolina, there's a pretty good chance that somebody's going to shoot back. And probably they're a better shot than the ICE agents, than the gravy SEALs that are ICE agents. So, there's a lot of things but it's an interesting dynamic that, hey, let's go to Minnesota. Why not go to North Dakota or South Dakota? I mean, and again, you're looking for the low-hanging fruit. People that are actually citizens. As Scott mentioned about these people that are being sent back to Laos. These are citizens. They're citizens. Your problem with them is that, they're second generation from the Vietnam War or from wherever, from whatever conflict they came from. If you're going to do that, if you're going to take that attitude, let's send back all the Germans. Let's send back all the Japanese. How about those damn French? Ooh, here's another good one. Let's send back those bloody British. If you're going to go make people responsible for the sins of their forefathers, even though you're a citizen, hey, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Go get all those British, because those buggers wanted to, keep us under their boot, or the French, or, so there's so many things that we could take this to. But the bottom line is, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy. It's a murder. Unless somebody else can show that there was something more involved in this than what we're seeing. And it's from Orwell, and I can't actually remember the exact the quote from Orwell. But the last order of the state was to not believe what you saw or heard. Something to that effect. That's a paraphrase of that. That's what we're being told today. Don't believe. Yeah. Don't believe what you see or hear.
I can give you that.
Give me that, Scott, because I would love. Because I'm really bad at quotes from Orwell.
I actually made it my Facebook icon or whatever. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command.
Yep,
is the quote. All right, so a couple more things. The acting field office for ICE in Denver, John Fabricatori, put out a post today saying that there's a lot of misinformation about ICE, and people need to understand what ICE does and does not do. And I don't know where it looks like he's getting this from ICE in 2018. And I'm going to suggest to him that he needs to update his postings. He says, "Let me be clear. ICE does not conduct patrols, raids, or sweeps looking for illegal aliens. Individuals and groups making such accusations are doing nothing but fear-mongering. ICE strictly conducts targeted enforcement actions and continues to focus its limited resources first and foremost on those who pose the greatest threat to public safety. Our officers are professionals who uphold the law as written by Congress, and anybody has an issue with the law needs to take it up with their congressman." So he says they don't conduct raids or sweeps, does not operate road blocks or checkpoints. That's not true. I mean, I think we've all seen them. In fact, right now, I believe what they're doing is a combination of um, going door to door, as I said before, waiting outside of like highways and stuff where the traffic slows down so they could look into cars. There was a video of them at a gas station, a Speedway gas station, stopping a young man and asking him to prove that he's a U.S. citizen. He's slightly on the dark side, his skin. And when he refuses to do that, they break his window, of his car and drag him out of the car. They're waiting on exit ramps. They're pulling over drivers. They're looking for anybody who looks like an immigrant. They're asking people to show proof that you're an American citizen. And if you say, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give you anything, I'm not going to hand you anything, I'm not sure, I've seen some instances where they walk away kind of disgruntled, and others where they react violently to people. In this particular case, Trump's immediate reaction, you said that you know him and gives him a run for his money and stupidity, but check this out. His immediate statement in the aftermath was that she did run him over. He's lucky to be alive. He had to go to the hospital. He just all kinds of crazy stuff from Trump. And then he was asked again, I think it was on Sunday, and he said, look, at the very least, she was very disrespectful to them. Okay. I mean, these are like, he takes an oath of office to tell the truth about things. So, now all of a sudden, somebody who comes up to you and starts, threatening you and wants to see your ID or, check your papers and all that kind of stuff, and you're disrespectful to them, that is reasonable cause for them to actually kill you. So, we're in a very, very weird place right now in this country. If that's what the president of the United States is telling people. We've seen video of Stephen Miller telling them that they have total immunity. Do what you need to do. If people if people lay a hand on you, then you have the right to beat the hell out of them, kill them, whatever you want to do. I've also seen a video of a guy who is like walking backwards with his cell phone, and somebody else captured this on their cell phone. And this was Greg Bovino's detail. Like Greg Bovino's a short guy, he's like 5'5" or something like that, and he walks around dressed in this uniform. He looks like the kind of guy who puts on a uniform and feels like he's 10 feet tall. And he walks around with all these big guys, and they all surround him. And this fellow who was videotaping them on his phone tries to get past him so he can videotape him going into, I think it was a Target, and bumped into him as he went past him. And man, did they jump on him and beat the shit out of him and drag him out of the store. So, one of the great things about being a police officer, I think, one of the things that we've always respected about police officers is that they get great training in how to de-escalate situations. And the best cops are those ones who can do that, who can calm everybody down or intimidate somebody to back down, or in some way or another, not force the issue to where it becomes violent. These guys are the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
These guys are military. And to quote one of my favorite movies, Full Metal Jacket, they are jolly green giants walking the earth with guns. And they are acting like they're indestructible, and they're acting like they cannot be disrespected by women, and that this led to violence in this particular case and several others as well. And it is just wrong. And I don't know who's going to stop it, although I sense Right now, there are more ICE agents in Minnesota than there are law enforcement, but more law enforcement resources need to be put to be in the same area where ICE is, so that those law enforcement officers can stop ICE from doing what they're doing, and say,
Yeah.
look, I'm sorry, but you're breaking the law. Now, I've seen video, and I don't know if it's AI or it's real, of police officers doing that in some locations, literally saying to ICE, you need to back down because this is my jurisdiction and you're not here legally. If ICE is supposed to have targeted you know um targeted targets
Targeted targets.
to exercise the law on, to find the people that they're specifically looking for and take them out of the country, that is one thing. But for them to start asking people, let me see your papers, is a complete other thing. And they're doing that in places where I believe they know that it's an antagonism, and I believe they're doing it on purpose. I believe that they're sent to Minnesota, Danbury, Connecticut, New York City, LA, Chicago, on purpose for the reason of inspiring some kind of backlash. And I truly hope nobody gets killed in this. Nobody else gets killed for doing this, on both sides, on the ICE side and on the citizen side. But it's going to happen again, let's face it. And the population is going to be more and more angry with them. And the retaliation is going to spur the Insurrection Act and, martial law and nobody on the streets, curfews, et cetera, et cetera. And this is just not supposed to happen in the United States of America. But I have friends, people I care about deeply, who have supported ICE in this shooting, and who think that all you need to do is everything that they tell you to do, and you'll be fine. And my answer to that, first and foremost, is that's not the United States of America, friend. That's not what we do here. We don't have just a right; we have a responsibility to question authority. And that's what these two women were doing. And when the citizens who were watching ICE see them, they're honking their horns, they're blowing whistles. You hear it every single video. You hear people blowing whistles and honking horns to alert the neighborhood that ICE is on hand, and you need to go to ground if you're the one that they're looking for, or you need to stay inside if you happen to be a person of color or Hispanic or whatever, because they're going to be coming after you. And I mean, that's occupation. That's not law enforcement. We are occupied.
Yeah. And that you're correct, Scott, that Trump is interested in the Insurrection Act. And one of the most egregious statements that I keep replaying in my mind is what Vance said, that this Jonathan Ross is having been dragged because 6 months ago Jonathan Ross reached through an open rear window of the driver's side, the rear, the passenger side of but right behind the driver, and tased the driver and was dragged by the vehicle because the driver began to drive and wound up with stitches in his hand. And Vance is saying, "Oh, he's sensitive. Oh, and I have been hit by a car." Okay, if Jonathan Ross is so sensitive from having been dragged by a vehicle, he does not belong out in public with a firearm, wandering around, as you said, Mark, walking in front of a car with its engine running, I mean, putting himself at risk and putting other people at risk.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
mean, it's
he
just bad policing technique. I
it
mean,
is. You don't do that
any
ever.
police academy that if this was a final test, this guy would have been failed and said, listen, maybe you need to become the postman. I mean, because you obviously can't handle this. And it's just bad policing. It's bad technique. Nothing about it is good. Reaching into a car and trying to tase somebody while it's going and expecting not to be dragged around. You're a moron. I mean, I'm sorry. You have shown us a new level of being a moron, because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's
It's
will
certainly
we
not
ever get
something.
back?
It's certainly not something you should ever make a habit of. And it seems like this
No.
guy's made a habit of getting in front of cars or being dragged by cars.
Well, it's one of those things, Scott, that if he does make a habit of it, he won't make a habit of it for very long, because eventually he will get his ass run over. And again, that's it's like my dad used to say, and he was a sheriff, and he said, it takes one stupid mistake. And he goes, one stupid mistake not only endangers the public, it endangers you, and it endangers the other law enforcement. And he goes, that's why we try everything we can not to make that one stupid mistake that anybody can look at it. And he goes, every time somebody makes it and somebody gets hurt, anybody that knows anything about law enforcement looks at it and goes, that was just a stupid mistake. There is the cause. And I got news for you. This guy, he caused this on his own. So I don't know if we really answered that question. I think we did. Did we, Scott?
I don't know. Do we have any more time? Because I want
we got time. Go for it.
Well, because what I thought we would do here is try to break it down. Now, we've talked about the overall situation, right?
Right.
Why Minneapolis? What is this really all about? What is this thing about? And hopefully we're at least raising questions about that. I don't know if we have any answers for it, but there is definitely a context here that I think we're discussing, in that if ICE really was interested in ramping up their numbers of illegal immigrants deported, especially criminals, that they would be in a place where, first of all, there are a lot of them, and second of all, they're greeted as liberators and have the cooperation of the local population, rather than what we're seeing now, which is that they're just really aggravating a lot of people, including women, including mothers, and that because they do this sort of dress up that another theme we've talked about on this podcast quite a bit is the sort of costume play of this administration, especially when it comes to Kristi Noem, and the fact that she likes to get all dressed up for various things. And these guys are untrained or inadequately trained. It looks pretty much uniformly white men who are put on this like tactical gear, carry long guns, and they don't like being accosted or refused or disrespected by women, particularly. Anybody of color, I'm sure, would fall into the same category, but they seem particularly angry when women come up against them. And that brings me to a second theme of this, which is this idea. So the listener, Dante, brings up Ashley Babbitt. I don't see any parallels between Renee Good and Ashley Babbitt. None. They're completely different situations.
And I think that was his point, Scott.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't even have put them in the same paragraph. That must be something that's happening on the right, is that they're making some kind of comparison.
They are.
But it seems ridiculous. What I would say there is a good parallel here is between Ross and forgive me, I don't know his first name, ICE Agent Ross and Kyle Rittenhouse.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
now we've got a right-wing
Ross.
hero who pulled out a gun and killed people, right? Becomes a right-wing hero in doing so, and this is going to divide the nation further.
You know, you're exactly right. Rittenhouse. It really comes, and you know what? These are the kind of people you've got who are coming into ICE. They're untrained.
He could be the major general of ICE.
Yeah, you know, whatever. You know, I'm sure. But, you know, that's the problem. And I think a lot of people are just not understanding the danger of having untrained people walking the streets under the guise of being some sort of federal law enforcement with no real mandate or no real direction as to, other than, you know, the generalities of finding, you know, these terrible illegal aliens. So the danger that presents, I mean, that's just asking for trouble. I mean, that is just asking for trouble. And I don't care who you are. You could be the biggest Trump supporter in the world. You're not safe either. Because you know, maybe they're not going to be there to get you. But one of the things I noticed during the videos was, and one of the two you brought this up, when he pulled his gun, he put one of his own other agents at risk. That other agent was like scrambling for his life.
Yeah.
He was scrambling for his life. Well, guess what, people? They may not be after you. You may be at the gas station getting yourself some gas and going in and getting yourself a Slurpee or whatever. And when you come out from that gas station and ICE is there, if you've got somebody untrained trying to apprehend somebody and pulls his gun, there's as much a chance that he's going to accidentally shoot you as he's going to shoot anybody else. Because they have no bloody clue what the hell they're doing. And that's the danger we have. This may be El Chapo he is bringing in. I mean, this may be that caliber of a person that he's bringing in. And this is a righteous ICE arrest. But if you're not trained properly, I'm sorry, you're more likely to kill the kid, you know, coming out of the store than you are to kill the guy that you're aiming at.
Or the dog in the back seat, or the fellow officer, or, you know.
If it's a dog in the back seat, Christy Nome will come and take care of that.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I know.
That was bad. I know.
Well,
no, but it's true. I mean,
that brings me to theme 3 here.
Okay.
Which is once again the Second Amendment solution to everything. That so many people in this country seem to be reaching for guns to solve a problem that they have. And it seems to me that this guy Ross's problem was that this woman was rude to him. It's not even the one he shot was rude to him. The other one was rude to him. And that he just in the moment could not handle it anymore. And the first instinct that he had was to pull his gun and pull the trigger. And we've seen this time and time and time again. We saw it with Kyle Rittenhouse. By the way, you know, the jury, we should never forget this, that the jury in, I think it was Wisconsin, never got to see the video or hear the videotape of Kyle Rittenhouse a week before his shooting, where he was watching protesters marching and said out loud, "I wish I had my gun with me now. I would certainly start shooting," or words to that effect. I don't remember the exact quote, but he had that was premeditated, him going to this thing and using his gun. We've seen people shooting shoplifters. We've seen, you know, people angry at somebody else. I mean, I always tell my son, you know, like, do not get into bar fights. Like when I was your age, when I was his age, 25 years old, I got into bar fights. I punched people in the face if they looked at me wrong. And I had plenty of other friends who did as well. We got into bar fights. We got drunk and we got into fights. I tell him all the time, you cannot get into I got into my brother. This one's even better. Got into a fight on the FDR Drive. Somebody had cut off their car, and they actually drove up in front of him, stopped in the middle of the FDR Drive in Manhattan, and stopped the car, and everybody, like 6 guys, 3 in each car, jumped out and started beating up each other on the FDR Drive. And he loves that story, and I tell him all the time, you cannot do that anymore because they don't thump anymore; they blast, and it is too dangerous. We don't hitchhike anymore, and we don't get into fights because the fights don't end well. It ends with gunfire. Too many people look for their Second Amendment solution to every little problem they have. And the problem that this officer had was that he wants to, as David Frum put it, redistribute respect away from the people who got claimed respect in the 60s, women, minorities, right? Civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, back to the white man who had the respect at the beginning, got it because he had the guns, and is now using the guns to get that respect back. That is David Frum, not me. I think it's absolutely brilliant analysis and 100% on the mark. You cannot do that anymore. So Second Amendment solutions, third theme.
Right. And I'll tell you something. If you ever if anybody out there ever wants to get a good laugh, Radical the Unhollow Knight. He's from Holland, and he does sovereign citizens. And there's a couple of them. Van Balen is another channel that does sovereign citizens. These are the people that believe that they're traveling, they're not driving, therefore they don't need a driver's license. And you see, they do a lot of pullovers, and it usually always ends in a window being broken because they don't have a license or won't show, or it always usually ends in somebody getting tased. Usually ends up with somebody going to the back of the patrol car and crying and yelling and screaming. You want to see how to handle a situation. Watch these police officers as they're dealing with these people. This guy that shot this woman, his feelings were hurt. Plain and simple. His feelings got hurt. Well, you listen to some of the things that these officers, state police, and they show videos from all over the country, state police, sheriff's departments, things like that. The abuse that they take, and they don't pull their gun and shoot somebody. And if the standard was this guy, this guy in Minnesota getting his feelings hurt, if the standard was if your feelings are hurt, you can shoot them like he did, that's all these videos would be these sovereign citizens getting shot. I mean, that would be all there is to it. But these police understand how to de-escalate. And when they say, okay, I've had enough, get out of the car. Pennsylvania versus Mims, got to get out of the car. And if you don't, I have to break your window. I don't want to break your window. I don't even want to take you to jail. But would you please comply? And they get a big argument, and you've got the YouTube lawyers on there trying to tell everybody that their rights and this, that, and the other. And eventually they do it, but they still do it with great respect to the human being that they're dealing with. Yes, sometimes somebody has to go to the ground and get, handcuffed because they're going to be fighting and this, that, and the other. Absolutely. But they make sure that the person that whenever they break a window, they always say, turn your head so you don't get any glass in your eye. They don't have to do that. And so, again, that's training. That's true policing. And true policing is done with a light hand. To the point that you can, to the point that you can do it. It's done with a light hand. And these clowns that are in ICE simply just don't have that capacity. They just do not have that capacity, and it puts all of us in danger. And as I say, you're more likely to get shot, and you weren't even being aimed at. I mean, so it's a sad state of affairs. I'd like to know, as Scott does, as we unpack all this, and we'll be unpacking it some more because, believe me, I have more emails that we'll be hitting. And as we get more information, we can unpack more of this. But people are afraid, and they probably should be. They probably should be. And it's not because they're afraid, I'm an illegal alien, that is in danger of being deported. Dante, I'm going to make the assumption that you're not an illegal alien. Lives in where is it? Where does Dante live? Council Bluffs, Iowa. Probably you're not an illegal alien, Dante. But just in the emails that we got regarding this, it's regular citizens who are afraid for themselves and their family because these guys are just out of control, untrained, and that makes them dangerous because they're carrying weapons with them. So
and for all the MAGA people out there who say, Trump, as Trump pointed out, this guy's life was in danger, and now Trump had backed off on that. He pulled the rug out from underneath you again, and now he's saying that this woman was being disrespectful. So anytime, as a rule of thumb, that you use Trump's arguments as your arguments, just remember he changes his arguments all the time, and there's no reason to back him up on any of it because he's not going to back you up the same way that you just backed him up.
That's correct. All right. Like I said, we will definitely be revisiting this, but it'll be more interesting once we know more.
At this time,
I think we both want to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the family, of this woman that was killed, and I'm really hoping that justice can be served. Let's see what happens. Okay,
just one more. I mean,
go ahead, Scott.
Please. Sorry, but this I didn't think of it until just now. But
yeah, go ahead.
Apparently, this guy Ross has a mail order bride from the Philippines, and I just want to say that a dude who needs to import a wife probably can't handle like a regular American woman, and needs one from a culture that is more subservient and polite, I guess, or I don't know. We'll talk about this another time, but
yeah, and grateful to be
here. Open a whole nother part of this guy's psychology, but it's just the idea that he can't handle women mouthing back to him is probably enough to do a whole show about. So we'll table that for another time.
And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium dedicated to providing solutions to social and political issues for NGOs and international government agencies. Through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research, the Phoenix Research Group advances understanding and practical strategies for complex challenges. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.